everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Honestly Bilal. I'm your host, Bilal Ahmed, and I'm a fourth-year medical student at the University of Toledo. And this is Honestly Bilal, the show where I sit down and talk with aspiring ophthalmologists who are either medical students interested in ophthalmology or whether they're current residents training in ophthalmology or current ophthalmologists in the field today. So today my guest is Dr. Kalla Gervasio. She is a chief resident at Wills Eye Hospital in Philadelphia. Dr. Gervasio, it's an honor to be with you, and thank you for joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get started right to your origin story. So what got you into ophthalmology, and when did it become an idea for you that, hey, I want to do this for the rest of my life?
Yeah, definitely. So I think just going way back in time, what got me into medicine first was that my father passed away from cancer when I was 15. So originally, I actually thought I wanted to do oncology when I first started in medical school because of that experience. And then I slowly sort of realized that I really liked the operating room, which I hadn't expected. I thought I was going to be more of sort of a medicine track.
Sure.
But I met a mentor in my first year of med school who was in oculoplastics. And this was at Mount Sinai. I was up in New York City for my medical school. And I spent a lot of time with him doing procedures in the office and shadowing him in clinic.
Okay.
And that got me interested both in ophthalmology and oculoplastics specifically. But I realized there was a little bit of overlap with oculoplastics and oncology for some of the more orbital tumor type of cases that he did. And I thought that would be an interesting way to combine some of all of the interest I had come into med school with, a little bit of oncology, realizing I liked procedures, and being able to restore people's vision I found really gratifying. And so that's sort of the track I went. So I actually discovered ophtho pretty early in my first year of med school through meeting that mentor.
Okay, cool. And then, you touched on a couple things there. Number one, I mean, your father, I'm so sorry about that. And I'm sure he's probably very, very happy that you're training at such an amazing place and doing awesome things. And one of the things that you're going to be doing is next year you're starting a fellowship in neuro-ophthalmology. And then you're also pursuing an oculoplastics fellowship after that. So talk about neuro-ophthalmology and then also talk about oculoplastics. And for a lot of people out there who are interested in ophthalmology may not know that you can do multiple fellowships. And so kind of talk to us about that process and what kind of got you thinking, hey, maybe I want to do a little bit of both of these and the advantages of doing both of those.
Yeah, definitely. And I'll talk a little bit about this when we talk more about Wills specifically too. But one of the really cool things about Wills is that we have the Wills Eye Emergency Room, which is open 24/7, staffed by the residents. And we see a ton of neuro-ophthalmology cases there, as well as oculoplastics, and oftentimes some of the more complex orbital cases. So people with thyroid eye disease, or people with orbital tumors or cancers that have spread to the eye and the orbit. So there's a lot of overlap between neuro-ophthalmology and plastics that I didn't realize till I was a resident here.
Sure.
And we have strong departments in both fields, and I am more interested in academic medicine. So that's part of the reason I ended up going down the route of doing more than one fellowship. And I thought it just sort of fit with my interest in doing research, interest in doing teaching, and just my general interest in the more orbital side of plastics because there's such an overlap. Neuro-ophthalmology is awesome because you really learn imaging very well. You learn the anatomy of the orbit and what you're seeing on all the radiology for your patients. And there's still a strong aspect of medicine to it as well. So if you're someone that enjoys both procedures and medicine, I think that's what people tend to go into ophthalmology because it has a little of both.
Right.
Neuro-ophthalmology in particular, you don't lose that sense of, you really have to understand the person's systemic disease to figure out what's going on for their neuro-ophthalmology disease process as well. And I liked that more like intellectual aspect of it. So.
Sure. And then, obviously right now your main priority is being the chief resident at Wills Eye Hospital. So what are the responsibilities of being the chief resident? And how does that process kind of work? And how do you oversee, what is it like to oversee the other residents and kind of be that leader? And what skills have you learned along the way that made you more groomed for that process? And just touch on that a little bit.
Sure. so it definitely comes with a lot of responsibility. We have a pretty large residency, so there's 8 per class and 24 residents total. So I could certainly not do the job alone. I have an awesome co-chief, and we work very well together as a team. But I think some of our main responsibilities are obviously teaching and mentoring the residents. And I think for me, that was one of my favorite things of being a second year resident, was being the senior in the ER and really looking out for the juniors, and teaching them every step of the way. You know, you start as a first year, and this is true in med school too. You're on the rotation, and you don't know how to turn the slit lamp on, and
Yeah.
it's just the basic things. Yeah, so like people don't think about these things, and
Sure.
I think for me, I had good mentorship as a med student, and an intern year too. And it makes a huge difference, I think, if you have someone that's sort of nurturing and calming to the junior resident, to show them each step, even if it's a very basic question. And I think that's important as a chief, to support the residents in that way through mentorship. So
Yeah.
that's a huge part of what we do. With COVID, things have been even different than usual, because in the springtime, we were having to make a new schedule for the residents every single week of their rotations and what clinics they were going to be in, because things were down scheduled a little bit more during the pandemic. We're pretty much back up normal running right now.
Okay.
But we do a lot of different schedules throughout the year. We plan a lot of the academic lectures for Wills, and the wet labs as well. So that's sort of the more educational side of things, is organizing the lecture series for the residents. The medical students are actually welcome to attend all of them as well. So pre-COVID, we tend to have a lot of people attending. We've been doing more virtual things, obviously, now.
Right.
But scheduling is a big one. And then I think I'm learning a lot so far. I'm only a couple months into the chief position, but I think learning even more about communication and interpersonal skills, and mediating all the residents, making sure everyone's in the right place at the right time. So I think those are important things, just sort of being able to interact with everyone of different backgrounds in the residency, and working well with my co-chief. It's been really helpful to do it as a team effort, because it's definitely a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, no, and I think that something I like that you touched on there is that it's really comes down to very good interpersonal skills for the leadership aspect, especially if you have a sort of, like you mentioned, a co-chief. So that's really nice. You it's not all on you. There's somebody who you can share that sort of responsibility with and delegate. So that sounds awesome, and sounds like a very cool opportunity, and I'm sure that you're enjoying every day of it. So let's also touch on something very unique that you've done, and you've started, is something called the Journal of Narrative Vision. So tell people what that's about, and the origin of that, and what is the whole premise of the Journal of Narrative Vision, and just tell us about it.
Yeah, so that's a project that I started with the med school mentor that I mentioned before, who is in oculoplastics, and we both sort of bonded when we first met over a shared love of the humanities.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually a classics major in college.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
I started as a biology major,
Mm-hmm.
and then I did a study abroad trip to Greece. I'm half Greek.
Oh, okay.
And when I came back, I realized I really liked classics, and I thought, if I'm going to med school, I'll never have the chance to study this again.
Sure, that's kind of true.
So I ended up switching my major, and I think it was one of the best decisions I've ever made, to be able to have the opportunity to study something outside of science, because you do learn other topics in med school too, but you become more focused just sort of on the medical aspects that you need to know to be technically good at your job.
Right.
But I think having a humanities background helped me with interpersonal skills once again, and being able to interact with patients in a different way. Mm-hmm. So we basically created an online journal that is a narrative medicine journal just for ophthalmology and optometry, and stories related to patients who have vision problems, mm-hmm. or low vision. So it's open for anyone to submit. Actually, a lot of medical students have submitted to it. I would say it's been most popular with medical students.
Very
So we get all sorts of submissions, poems, artwork, fiction and nonfiction, all related to ophthalmology. And have a lot of medical students, people who've done global health trips and are sort of reflecting on trips that they've been on where they did cataract surgeries.
yeah.
So it's been really interesting to see what kind of submissions we get. And it's been nice to sort of keep that ongoing with my mentor from med school as one of our projects.
Very cool. I think it's really nice that you also kept it throughout residency. I mean, I think that's one thing is that, with the rigors of residency from what at least I understand, it's very nice that you have something that keeps you kind of, it keeps a part of you and something that you like to do, like, express what you're interested in. And I think it's cool you managed to maintain a balance. So that's really cool. And I have to check it out. I can't believe I just found out about it today. I wish I'd known about it a little sooner. So we'll definitely throw in a plug for the website towards the end of the interview for people to find out about it more.
Yeah.
So let's talk about wills a little bit. So you touched on a little prior earlier about the wills ER and how residents have a lot of autonomy. So what about the culture, the faculty, the staff? Something I realized, I'm on a away rotation right now at the University of Kentucky. And I think I've really realized that, it's not just residents who make the culture, it's staff, it's the janitorial services, it's a cafeteria, it's everybody, right? So talk about the culture at Wills, talk about what you really love about it and why you're really glad you're there, and something that, and maybe even some faculty members who have been big inspirations for you there.
Definitely. So I did an away rotation at Wills when I was a med student.
Okay.
So I know that some places are letting people come for aways and some aren't right now with COVID, but I had a couple friends from my medical school who had also matched here and were first and second years when I did my away rotation. Mm-hmm. So I would always hear them talk about the Wills family. Everything was about the Wills family. And I think you don't fully grasp that until the interview day and being a resident here. But it did turn out to be 100% true. Mm-hmm. I think that the residents are very close with one another, which I didn't find at every place that I interviewed at. And you could sense that on the interview day too, that everyone knew each other really well and that the faculty knew the residents very well too. Mm-hmm. I think despite being a big program, there is very good mentorship in a sense that all the different departments know the residents extremely well.
Sure.
I think that is for a couple of reasons. I think it's a social program. And so obviously this is sort of pre-COVID also, but there's always sort of faculty events where you're getting to know the residents. And they sort of treat you as their colleagues, not necessarily as someone above you type of thing. Right. You always felt like we're all colleagues here and everyone's willing to teach at all times. The other thing, like I said, was the Wills IER was a big part of why I wanted to come. And I had gotten the shadow a little bit on my away rotation. It's really true that you see pretty much everything that's in the Wills I manual, you will see in the Wills ER.
Yeah.
2 years. And it's really incredible. People say that and you don't really believe it because you're like, how could you possibly see everything in this book?
Yeah.
But, by the time you start your second year, you feel like any single thing that walks into the ER, you are capable of handling. And you start as a first year, like I said, not being able to turn the slit lamp on. And then all of a sudden you're in there doing lid lacerations by yourself, procedures, and you just feel so much confidence in the sense that you've seen everything in that book and know how to manage it. And I think that's something that's special about the program, the exposure we get and the diversity of the pathology through the emergency room in particular.
Very cool. Yeah, I think it's I will say that I've seen a lot of Wills Eye manuals around the Department of Ophthalmology here. So definitely is a well-known piece of material and a very, very useful source of information. So it's really nice that you're at the source of all of it, literally there. It must be awesome to have that like wealth of information.
Yeah, we have the new edition is coming out next year.
Oh, okay.
my co-chief and I are actually the co-editors. So
Oh, wow.
if you have any ideas or hear any ideas you want put in, let us know. We're happy to.
Okay, yeah.
We're working on it. So
All right, yeah, my ideas are gonna be like very like you're gonna be like, never mind, Bilal, we don't want this anymore. We appreciate it, but no thanks. So for my guests, I try to research about them and learn about them, and I learned something about you, and it's a throwback picture from you as a kid with a tennis racket, and you're posing the classic forehand pose. So I know you're a player. I know that you used to go to the U.S. Open. So how much has tennis been a part of your life, and who's your favorite player?
oh man, hard to name just one, but
Okay.
I love Nadal and Federer, but I
Well, you
think
can't say both. Okay.
I am more a Nadal fan.
Okay, fair, fair.
But my dad was Federer, but I leaned more Nadal, I would
Sure.
say. I played, I think, since I was maybe in like second or third grade.
Wow.
It's funny, I always wanted to play soccer, and my parents, they, when as I was growing up, they were like, well, you're not always going to be able to play soccer your whole life, because what if
Sure.
you can't assemble a team when you're older? And so
Uh-huh.
tennis is good because you can pretty much always play it if you find one other
Right.
person.
Yes.
After that, I was like, okay, you're probably right. So I
Yeah.
ended up originally didn't want to go because it was still into soccer.
Hmm.
I ended up loving it, and I would go every summer to camp. And then by like middle and high school, I ended up playing for my school's team,
Awesome.
and we would take a trip every summer before we started our season in high school to the U.S. Open.
Yeah.
During the qualifiers, you can actually get into the grounds for free there
Okay.
and just like watch the players practicing, and we would like wait outside and try to get autographs and all that. And then I've been to the U.S. Open and the French Open to see like the real matches once they started.
Okay.
Parents, so I'm hoping to make it to all the Grand Slams, but
Yeah.
obviously still COVID putting a damper on that. But maybe sometime in the future I'll get to the other ones.
I definitely I love the idea of going to all the slams. I know it's something that we don't know when it's going to happen now. But I know the U.S. Open's continuing. I'm not sure how I feel about that. But it's a big controversy. I know Novak Djokovic just today said that he's going to be playing, and I don't know how you feel about him, if he's a favorite of yours or not. How do you feel about Djokovic?
I think he's a great player.
Yeah.
I am still a Nadal fan though.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, that was a more fair answer. I'm a more abrasive hater of Novak Djokovic, but I appreciate that you were more classy about it.
Yeah, that's what I'll
That,
say.
we'll take that answer. What I know that you have a little bit of Greek blood. So what about Stefanos Tsitsipas? How do you feel about Stefanos Tsitsipas? Any
Oh, I like him.
you like him? Okay, yeah, he's cool. I mean, he's got the one-handed backhand. He's got the cool style. He's got the flow. You know, he's up and coming. I think he has a lot of talent. So we'll see what he does.
There's a lot of up and coming, which is nice.
Yeah,
Certainly
yeah,
it up, and you don't always want to see the same people winning the tournament, so it's nice to have kind of like young blood getting in there.
yeah. There you go. That's a good way to see it.
Are they letting people actually come to the tournament? I didn't.
Yeah, I
US
think I think there may be, or there's limited crowds. I know it's different. So they're doing like what they're doing now is that they're doing. So there's that warm up tournament in Cincinnati traditionally. That's a Masters tournament. So they're doing the Cincinnati Masters and holding it in New York, and it's happening right before the U.S. Open. So it's weird. It's weird. Just like the two
Oh,
tournaments at once, or two tournaments in a row, but one was supposed to be in Ohio, but now it's in New York, and I don't
yeah.
know. It's gonna be weird, and I'm still gonna watch it because I'm addicted. So it's my vice. Like I need something. I need something to see.
Yeah.
You
I'll
know?
definitely watch. I don't think I would go.
Yeah, I
That
don't
sounds
need. I don't need
people.
going to. I agree with you. I agree with you.
But
It was an honor to meet you. It was an honor to talk with you, and thank you so much for educating us on about not only wills, but about the different fellowships that are out there, the different ways that you can be involved with things from talent or passions that you had even as a college student to going up until being a chief resident. I think it's cool to keep those things in mind, and that those are longitudinal hobbies that you can always have with you, and they can transform with time. So let people know where they can find you on social media. I know that you're on Twitter and Instagram. So where can people find you on Twitter and Instagram? And what about tell us a link for where they can find if they're interested in the Journal of Narrative Vision.
definitely. So for Journal of Narrative Visions, it's www.narrativevisions.org. And everyone is welcome to submit pieces from med students to residents, attendings. Everyone is welcome. hopefully maybe you'll submit something.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
My Instagram is Dr. Kalla Gervasio, so my full name.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Gervasio, it's an honor to talk with you, and looking forward to possibly meeting in the future someday at a conference and learning more about neuro-ophthalmology, learning more about oculoplastic surgery from you, and looking forward to the next edition of Will's Eye Manual that will have your name on it. So best of luck with everything, and best of luck with your final year of residency at Will's.
Perfect. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.